So Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko were announced as the new TUF coaches for this upcoming season, and this couldn't be more well suited. I couldn't be less surprised by this action that the UFC took. They want TUF to be in the gutter. Reality TV as itself is already pretty much dead, but now the UFC is making sure they kill it dead by having these two as coaches. And honestly, I'll preface with this. Having Shevchenko and Grasso be coaches is not a terrible idea. It does make sense in the grand scheme of things. It is a trilogy, so I guess there is some sort of, reason to make them the TUF coaches. Like Shevchenko is a former dominant champion and Grasso has been a good champion, has UFC experience. So there is reason to make these two the coaches, but is it going to be entertaining? Is it going to be fun to watch? Am I going to be looking forward to watching Shevchenko and Grasso be nice to each other for months at a time? No, I'm not. It's going to be a very dull experience, and TUF is pretty much done out the gutter. It's been done for the past few seasons now, but I think this one really puts the nail in the coffin for me. You know, at least last season they tried with having McGregor and Chandler be on there, but the contestants that season was, abysmal. Like the winners, the fighters on there just didn't seem like they had true potential to be good in the UFC. They rebooked Brad Katona to be on there, which he already won a past season. He is the first ever two-time TUF winner. And what I'm trying to say here is that it doesn't seem like TUF had its old feel. The original feel of TUF where it felt like it was going to be a banger season. The coaches made the contestants or the contestants made the coaches. It feels like that's kind of gone now. And it really just seems like TUF as a whole is a dead program. And the funny part about this is that this year they actually have some good contestants where they might actually have some UFC potential and they might be good down the line. But the coaches just won't bring that entertainment aspect that we want from TUF every single season. And there were so many better options for the UFC. They could have done Ian Gary versus Colby Covington. That would have been a crazy tough season with how Colby talks. Even though I don't like Colby Covington that much anymore after his Leon Edwards performance, it still would have been a crazy season with how he would trash talk Ian Gary the entire time. It would have been a lot of back and forth, a lot of heated rivalry between them two. It would have been a very entertaining season along with the good contestants on there. It would have been very competitive. I mean, you probably would have seen Colby Covington and Ian Gary throwing fits on the side whenever their fighter was losing. So, it would have been a crazy sort of ordeal if we had Colby Covington versus Ian Gary on there. We could have done even Tom Aspinall, John Jones, maybe John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. That would have been good as well. Screw it, you probably could have put Volk de Poirier on there if you wanted to, since Volk's going to need some time off. Just have him do TUF in the meantime. Like, we could have had so many other options that were better than Shevchenko versus Grasso. But you know what? The UFC decides to go with those two of all people to be the TUF coaches. Like, they're going to be entertaining. Like, we both know that both of their first languages are not English. So, like, they can speak English, but it's not their first language. So it's like, how much of a language barrier is there going to be between these two? And are they even going to talk that much shit? I know Shevchenko can be a bit cocky at times, so she might bring it to Grasso, but who cares? You know, like who cares about it? And even with the new contestants being somewhat decent this year, it's not a surefire guarantee that they will be successful in the UFC, and we've known this. It's always how TUF has been. Nobody who ever wins TUF is going to for sure be a UFC champion or be a top-ranked guy, but it felt more often in the past. It feels like recently there's pretty much no chance for the TUF winner to be even somewhat decent or above bottom feeder level in their own division. Like, what has Brad Katona and Kurt Holobaugh done since they've won TUF? Brad Katona has lost since he last won TUF. Before that, there was Muhammad Usman, which he's done well at heavyweight, but it is heavyweight. And Juliana Miller, she's garbage. Literally, Juliana Miller has no talent whatsoever, and somehow she won TUF. Before that, there was Ricky Tercios and Brian Battle. Battle's done pretty well in the UFC, but again, can't get to that ranked level. And Ricky Tercios was going to retire at one point. Just going through some of these winners, none of them have been really any good. And the last good one was Tim Elliott, which was in 2016. And before that, I think it was Ryan Hall and then Kamaru Usman. There hasn't been many good winners in the past, it feels like, decade of TUF. And at this point, man, we should just scrap it. Just get rid of it. TUF has no purpose anymore. Reality TV is pretty much dead. Cable TV is pretty much dead. And if we're being honest here, doesn't really even matter if they lose TUF. Most of these guys get signed anyways. If you're a runner up or if you take a short notice bout, the UFC still signs you anyways. I mean, like Cody Gibson and Austin Hubbard, they are in the UFC right now, I believe. Brady Heistand, who also lost in the last season of TUF, is also in the UFC right now, looking pretty good, actually. But it doesn't really matter if you're going to lose on TUF. The UFC still signs you anyways, so why do we even have TUF in the first place? Just make the Contender Series a week or two longer, or just add one more fight to every single card on it, and then bam, pretty much you have every single guy on TUF be on the Contender Series, and it's also easier for them to get into the UFC. I mean, all these guys are going to fight each other anyways, so you might as well just go ahead and put them on the Contender Series and make them fight each other now rather than later, and then wasting all this money on production team and all this money on paying them to be on TUF and paying the coaches, and then also paying a network to broadcast it like ESPN or something like that. Like overall, this can probably save you some money if you just slap them on the Contender Series instead of worrying about them being on TUF. And trust me, I'm all in for an extra week or two of Dana White's Contender Series. That would be, I think it's way more fun. It's way more easier to digest. It's way more easier to watch. We don't have to listen to a 10-minute monologue about how a guy misses his family. We know you miss your family, dude. It makes sense. You're far away. That's just how natural human emotions work. So it's just like TUF is boring. Like, let's be honest here. TUF is boring. Even with McGregor on there, it was still boring. Chandler, boring. Everything about TUF is boring now. Nobody really cares to watch it besides a few people. I tried watching the first episode of last season. It just didn't hit for me. It hasn't hit for me in a long time. This shit is just dead, and it needs to be replaced, man. I hate saying that about TUF because it is a staple of the UFC. It was a big thing in the past, but now times have changed. TUF as a reality TV show is dead, and these fighters just should be put on the Contender Series because it makes their lives easier. They only need one win to get into the UFC. They're not stranded from their family for months at a time where they have to fight several guys to get a shot at the UFC, and it also makes it easier for us to watch them because we get to easily digest their fights and see how they do against other great competition. So TUF as a whole is pretty much done. Scrap it, throw it away. We don't need it anymore. If the UFC is going to only half-ass it and not put on the best coaches and have the best prospects be on it, then I don't care for it. I don't want to watch it. It's already pretty cringe and boring as it is. So when there's not any good prospects or any good coaches on it, it just makes it 10 times more lame. And I'll still watch the first episode this season, but I'm not going to enjoy it, and I'll tell you that. So TUF, get rid of it, scrap it, goodbye. I'm out of here. Like, subscribe, bell icon for notifications. Peace.